All right, let's dive right in and tackle a question that trips up so many engineers: REST versus SOAP. They are the two absolute giants of the API world. And by the end of this, you're not just going to know the difference, you'll know exactly how to test them like a pro. Let's get to it.
So, have you ever been there? You open up a brand new project, you're looking at the API docs, and you just feel completely lost. You try to send a request, and nope, it fails. You try again, fails again. It seriously feels like you're trying to speak a foreign language.
Well, here's the thing. That's because you pretty much are. That confusion, it almost always comes down to one simple fact. You're dealing with one of two fundamentally different ways of communicating. Think of it less like a tech problem and more like, well, a food problem.
To really nail this down, we're going to use a simple analogy. Imagine it's lunchtime. You've got two choices. You can hit up a fast, super flexible food truck, or you can go to a formal, fine dining restaurant. Believe it or not, these two experiences map perfectly to our two API architectures.
So on one side, you have the REST food truck. It is all about speed, flexibility, and getting exactly what you want with zero fuss. And on the other side, you've got the SOAP fine dining experience. It's formal, it's highly structured, and it operates under a very, very strict set of rules. Let's break down what that actually means in practice.
So the REST food truck, it has a simple menu board right on the side. Think of these as your HTTP verbs. You just walk up, you say, "Get me a taco," or "Post this order," and bam, you get exactly what you asked for. And it's usually served in a really lightweight container, like JSON. But here's the crucial part. The truck has no memory of you. Every single order is a brand new transaction. This right here is what we call being stateless. Now, let's head over to the SOAP fine dining restaurant. Things are different here. You're handed this thick, formal menu with very specific rules. This is your WSDL, the Web Service Description Language. Your order has to be written in a precise format, on a specific type of plate, what we call an XML envelope. So what's the upside to all this formality? Well, the standards are incredibly high, and things like security are just built right into the experience. This is why you often see SOAP in places like banking or huge enterprise systems, where that strict, non-negotiable contract is a critical feature, not a bug.
Okay, so the food truck analogy is fun, and I think it helps. But let's translate this back into the technical world where we actually work. How do these ideas of food trucks and fine dining really play out when you're looking at code and system architecture?
All right, this table is where it all clicks. First, look at the type. REST is just a style, a set of best practices. SOAP, on the other hand, is a rigid, official protocol, and that's a huge difference. Now, look at the data format. REST is flexible, it loves lightweight JSON. SOAP, it's XML only. No ifs, ands, or buts. And for transport, REST pretty much lives on HTTP. But SOAP can actually use other protocols like SMTP. Yeah, the same thing that sends your email. It all boils down to complexity. REST is simpler, lighter on bandwidth. SOAP is more structured and, let's be honest, just heavier.
Let's just double-click on that word statelessness for a second. Because for REST, this is everything. It means every single request you send has to contain all the information the server needs to do its job. The server keeps no memory of you from one request to the next. Just like that food truck vendor, they don't know you were there 5 minutes ago. And this is exactly what makes REST so beautifully simple and scalable.
So, why does any of this really matter to you and me? Because as an automation engineer, you absolutely cannot bring food truck expectations to a fine dining restaurant. Your tools, your test data, even how you check for a successful response, it all has to change based on the API's language. Let's break down what that means for your actual testing plan.
Here's your 5-step game plan. First, you've got to identify and tool up. Is it REST? Great. Grab Postman or REST Assured. Is it SOAP? You're going to want a specialized tool, something like SOAP UI. Step 2? Get the docs. This is your contract, the open API spec for REST, or that WSDL file for SOAP. From there, you just build your payload, execute the request, and finally, the most important part, you validate the response. And just look at how different that validation is. For REST, you're checking simple HTTP codes and a JSON schema. For SOAP, you're parsing a whole complex XML document. Two totally different worlds.
And here's what it looks like in the wild. A REST request is just so clean and direct. You see how the method is clearly stated post, and the body? It's just this simple, easy-to-read JSON object. It's lightweight, and you can tell exactly what's going on with just a quick glance.
Now contrast that with SOAP. It's a lot more formal. Everything, and I mean everything, is wrapped in this required XML structure called an envelope. You can see the distinct header and body tags. Your actual request is buried way down deep inside all that structure. It's verbose, it's strict, and honestly, it's built for machines to read, not for people.
All right, now for the part that separates the pros from the rookies. We've got the basics down, so let's talk about the common traps people fall into, and more importantly, how the top 1% of engineers approach these challenges.
So what's the #1 absolute biggest mistake I see engineers make when they're starting out with API testing? It's something so simple, but man, it causes hours and hours of frustration. It's this, right here. They try to test the fine dining restaurant using the food truck's rules. They'll try to send a simple JSON object to a SOAP endpoint, or they'll try wrapping a REST request in an XML envelope. They're just speaking the wrong language, and of course, the API has absolutely no idea what they're trying to ask for. And here's a pro tip that will change the game for you. The traditional way to test? Check for a 200 OK status, and maybe, loosely check if some piece of data you expected is there. But the top 1%, they go so much deeper. They validate the entire response structure against that official contract, the WSDL for SOAP or the OpenAPI spec for REST. This proves that the API isn't just working, it's working correctly, exactly according to its own rules. That's the real goal.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground here, so let's boil it all down into a simple, actionable playbook you can take with you and literally use on your very next project.
Here it is, your 3-point playbook. Number 1, identify first. Are you at the REST food truck or the SOAP fine dining restaurant? Your entire strategy hinges on that one question. Number 2, respect the contract. That WSDL or OpenAPI spec is your ultimate source of truth. Always validate against it. And number 3, use the right tool for the job. Pick flexible tools for the food truck and grab the specialized ones for that fine dining experience. Simple as that.
And that's really what it all comes down to. If you can truly master this one distinction, identify the architecture, respect its contract, and use the right tools, I promise you, you are genuinely ahead of the vast majority of your peers. You've totally got this.